We're in the heart of the giant. This is Final Fantasy. Alright, I'm looking at my inventory and not really seeing what I'm doing here. I am all out of escape decks. That's, well, I have a tomb card. Never got that amulet. Guess we, enchant. No enchant weapon, plus 8 Trishula's better versus like an Orb of Fire just because of the base damage. We don't have a lot of might. Any other good Necro? Oh right, Infestation. Now that's a spell that could be helpful. That certainly could be. Mikey hates it when I memorize the spell, but you know what, Mikey? You're not here right now. Also, my spell slots clearly have failed. Why didn't you put it on F or T or N? Maybe I don't have a mapping for this spell. I guess I actually do have to train up a little bit more Necro. Do I have a source of wizardry? I have a staff. I guess I go pick that up. Can't carry that many items. Story of my life. Story of my goddamn life. Minus Telly is still useful. If I want RF++, I take off the Ring of Ice, but beyond that, unfortunately, I have a single resistance pot, so that makes Orb of Fire a little bit scarier. You really want to like soften them up. Obviously haste, but of course I don't have a lot of haste, so it's going to be interesting because we just don't have all that many decks here, and I don't want to go like full clearing Zot necessarily. I might do some of Zot and just sort of see. Playing this character ultra slow. This is sort of still like me doing like this style of Octopode is a little bit like learning what you like to do, what kind of path feels the best. Yeah, the Infestation Storm is good, but you have to kill monsters to get it is the only real issue. Obviously it works against every monster, which is great, but we gotta go pick up Holy Word. I could try to gamble more for mutations, but the other thing I need to do is go pick up those mutation potions. And maybe drop those at the entrance to Zot. Got a little bit of summon left, just not a lot. Gonna be looking to conserve as much of that as I can until Zot 5. Between that and Infest, we might be able to deal with most of the problems that we run into, but we'll have to see. I mean, there are, it's just you can't count on it. That's sort of the issues. You have to kill stuff. It works on any monster, really. But yeah, obviously those are numerous and relatively easy to kill, but there are things like Moths of Wrath, and I think the number, I forget if, I actually don't know how that spell works in terms of the number of beetles generated. If it's based on monster size, it might be. Oh man, we just don't really have any slots left. This is the main issue right now. Octopode does exacerbate this a little bit. The reason being is that they have rings. Guess I'm gonna drop that. Yeah, I've got the Holy Word. Let's go get our mutation junk. Oh, the other thing we can take a look at, just to further this. Wow, really nothing to I have 4,000 gold, but the shops have not really been too great this run. Yeah, these rings are not, they are not too impressive. No good protection ring. No slaying, which would be nice. Resistances have been just getting RF and RC at the same time, which is something I really like to have. Only source of RLEC I have is the staff, which is actually okay, but yep, pack is full, alright. Some nets, not going to waste my inventory space with that though. Yep, Octopode and Nemelex definitely I guess we're gonna forego the earth, honestly. I mean, I'd like to carry it, it's such a pain to not have even a single slot free, and I could get a deck gift. Thing I could do is stack 5 one of these, let Ordinate Destruction. See what we can. Vitriol is really top tier. Orb at this power is pretty good. Pain is a bit more situational. Wild Magic is like, I don't even want to use it. Alright, I guess we're ready to go. Oh, right, I never got, of course, I forgot. I never got the Shoals rune. Well, that's not so bad. I do that sometimes. That'll be an easy one. Anything else that we can drop here? We'll drop Holy Word. We're gonna pick up some junk here too, probably. This is going so far. Looks like that's either Ilsui or we got the ice end. Oh, we got extra magic maps, so we can go ahead and map this. Fortunately, no shop. That would have been cool. I actually don't have wizardry. Yeah, I mean, it would be sort of fun to play with it, though. I did mean to pick that up, actually, and I guess I didn't. So I guess I should go ahead and pick that up. And I probably can cast it. We'll have to see. Let's see. That'll work. Give it a shot. The other thing, though, why this is not a great... one of the problems with this spell is that... one of the problems with it is extremely loud, and this is not the best level to make make a lot of sound, depending on where you are on the level. Hopefully I'm amphibious. At least that part is not going to be a hassle. You're starving, kind of burning through rations a little bit. That might be something I have to... Okay, snake. Entrance down there. The same side of the entrance of the other one. Don't appreciate that one bit. Throwing that, huh? Gary, thank you for the 300 bits, man. Appreciate that. Gary's coming in strong with those bits. Will I play CST? No, E-bearing. Well, if I played it, I could play in an alt account. It's just going to depend. I'm going to be pretty busy these next couple of months, so we're going to have to see. I'll have enough between occasionally playing Crawl on Streak and whatever time I have to do for dev. Alright, so this is stuff. It'd be nice to basically clear the top half before the bottom half. There's barbs. Let something walk into this teleport trap. Or not. We'll get Tendra. What happened to Tedranai? Did somebody grief him? Don't have my Wand of Flame. Guess I'm gonna die to Water Nymph. Yep. Dream Sheeperino. Oh boy. Yeah, I knew you were gonna do that. I guess I'll have to... Nothing else around here, so... This teleport trap, it's very... This teleport trap must have a lot of EV. It can't... The monsters can't hit it. Yeah, that's the problem. It's pretty suicidal to try to do a challenge like that and go for... I mean, it's one thing if you're just not going for a lot of points, but it's another thing if... Thank you for the follow, Introspective. We got... Control Blink. I'm afraid, not gonna be going for Control Blink this game. Go up here. Gonna circle around the vault. This is gonna be a pretty easy shoals because, you know, I'm at XL25. Anything else in here? Bloodstained plate armor. But that's nice armor. Too bad I can't wear it. There's my Skull of Blink that rapidly becoming useless. I don't know what I'm trying to do with that Cyclops there. I guess I thought I was dodging him. Nemelex, I like where you're going with this, buddy. I don't know if I like this remix. I mean, it's not bad, it's just sort of annoying. It's good and it's bad. I'll let chat vote on that one. It's a pretty competent, like, heavy metal style remix, honestly. As far as OC remixes go, I'm not implying I would listen to this, but it is fairly well done. The laughing gets on my nerves. What am I gonna stack 5 another deck? So this is wasting cards, but this one was not amazing. Oh, thank you for the host, Introspective. Right, orb card is like, often it's IOD, so it's not even that good. Alright, so we cleared out the top 3, now we can kind of do these bottom ones as a group. Oh, hey. Staff of Fire, that's one way to get RF3. It's one way to do it. This is probably, I hadn't thought about that, but yeah, that's another possibility. But the problem with Staff of Fire is then I can't. The whole point of RF3 is so I can melee it, so it's not as good as it seems. Sort of like, could I melee an Orb of Fire from scratch? Oh, thanks, Introspective. It's cool. Yeah, I don't play NetHack too much myself, but I do have a video of a rogue that I ascended some years ago. I think that's still like the most popular video on my stream. It just makes sense because NetHack still has a pretty big audience. But yeah, it's a fun community. My games that I stream are DCSS, and recently I've been doing some Infra Arcana, which I might get to. Yeah, it's its own style of fun, certainly. It has. There are different. I've heard good things about some of the other ports. There's NetHack 4, and there's one called FicHack. That whole style of the core gameplay in NetHack no longer really appeals to me. Adam is sort of like the spiritual successor, I feel, to that style of game. It's got a lot of similarities, but it's got a much more modern presentation, and it does change up a bunch of things like overworld, and I'm not sure. I don't know Adam very well. I know Yogi has won it once. Yeah. Yeah, I have a list too of those that I want to try playing. Syl is one I need to play. Yeah, from what I've seen of Adam, it does seem to be the case. It's got a much more modern presentation. Much not even going about easier, but just like the actual presentation is much higher fidelity. It's got really nice hand-drawn graphics, and I don't know about the sound, but I think it has sound too. Also, there's a ton of development going on. That the guy who's developing Adam is like doing all these spin-off games. He's like reworking it to use Unity, and it's going to be this big complicated thing. So, I guess as a whole, that game has a bunch of development that's ongoing. Yeah, a lot of DCSS players really like Syl. That's why that one's on my list. I will probably switch over very shortly to Infra Arcana, actually, and finish a run that I had going of that I will probably screw up. Yeah, Dom is not open source, that is true. Some of the very best well, most of the best ones historically have been open source, and more recently, the next generation ones, Adam, closed source. I guess Tome is actually like closed source for the actual game, but like through Lua you can plug into just about any of it. So the game itself is sort of closed source, but you have programmatic access to change almost all of the game. I want to say that that's what the case is for Tome. Maybe the whole thing is open source. SilQ, yeah. One of the other, I'm a dev for DCSS, and a couple of the other DCSS devs who are Sil fans, Marvin PA and Elliptic, they also made their own variant of Sil. I think Marvin PA started it. It was like MPA Sil. I don't know what the current status of that is though, but that was a variant people playing for a while. I've not heard of SilQ. I don't know who's behind that one. The entire engine, yeah. But so the core game itself? Okay, SilQ is yours. That's a different one altogether. Yeah, MPA Sil I think is just like some tweaks and nice balance niceties, right? So maybe it's sort of like, I know the main Sil isn't really being developed any further, so SilQ is probably trying to carry on development. Yeah, yeah, that's what Elliptic had worked on his branch. MPA and I think I'm not sure for post Jengban, another Ongbon variant that's popular. I think Elliptic made his own fork for that, and I think MPA has contributed to it some. MPA never merged your bug fixes. Oh, you're bearing. That's because you're not on the Devil's team, you bearing. Yeah, I'm sure his time, his availability to work on that kind of varies. He hasn't had a lot of time for DCSS stuff either. Developed by Guarl. Yeah, I know that the post Jingban guy shut down the repo because he was kind of unhappy with how people had like been making sort of forks and not, I guess, not working with him. So I don't know like that there's an official successor to that really, but I could definitely see people making follow-ups, and obviously if you put a ton of work into it and make the thing that everyone's playing, then that's what people play. Ongbon, yeah, I have not. I asked MPA which Ongbon he recommended, and he was like, "Yeah, that's a good point. You could try Sil and post Chengbon, but they're actually very different experiences than the original. I don't know that I would like original Ongbon all that much, based on what I've heard of it." I play in console and then spectate myself in WebTiles. I'm playing online, and in DCSS you can anybody who's playing on a server that has both, you can spectate them from either method. So if you're playing on WebTiles, somebody from console can spectate you, and vice versa. So I'm just playing on console and spectating myself, and then I capture the WebTiles output for the main window, and then I also do a capture of the LOS area for my console, and then I just shrink it down because most people aren't looking for console output, but it's nice to have it both for Tiles players to kind of see what I'm seeing, and also for people who want to see prefer to look at console. They have something to look at. No, I don't want to move. Yeah, bearing a bunch of people do that too. It worked less well back in the day when stream delay was so bad. Elliptic actually showed up in my Twitch chat exactly once. I tell this story. It's slightly embellished because I don't fully remember, but nobody knew who he was. And this was not too long after I had first made Lam Lobot for Twitch, because I first made Beam, and then I made Lam Lobot as like an extension to Beam. They actually, both of those had to run at the same time. So I had it like running locally Beam, and then it also had Lam Lobot kind of built in. And eventually I split them out, and now they run as their own processes. But anyway, not too long after I'd implemented that, and I guess he had been watching, and people were making queries, and somebody asked about his game, one of his games, and this person showed up and started making queries about Elliptic, just out of the blue, and it turned out that it was Elliptic himself. I forget his Twitch username. It was like one of those RWRW jokes, or QWQW, something like that. And we were like, who are you? and it became clear he was Elliptic. And he was like, he was watching from console, I guess. And he was like, He made some queries and he was like, well, this stream delay is intolerable. It was just funny because how he just showed up randomly like it. Yeah, I mean, really, I think it's kind of, if you really want like a game to have a lot of, it depends on what you want, but not having tiles is just going to cut off just a vast number of potential users, obviously. The story with tiles in DCSS is that local tiles was implemented sometime around 0.6, a very simple initial implementation, but the core sort of code was actually only relatively recently have we been fixing up a lot of the code, and by we I mean one of our newer devs, and along with the help of one of our other newer devs, one of our newer devs is a UI specialist, and he's been revamping the code, but the core code for tiles didn't change for a long time. And another dev came along at Lothiel who implemented web tiles in 0.9. He was probably working on it for a few versions. But local tiles was available for this guy's. It's pretty hard, but not hard enough to get through the shield. And when web tiles came along, that's when the popularity of the game especially took off. Although tiles certainly was a big deal too, and tiles just kept improving over time in terms of like the quality of the tiles and other aspects of the implementation of it. But yeah, it's a much. Some of the reasons that Iggy said, some people really have a hard time looking at ASCII output, but just as far as an audience goes. But it depends on what you want for your game. Like, you may not actually care about that. Problem in Dota, some players have this strangely it's okay to have 1996 UI. Yeah, I saw you complaining about some of the UI stuff for like Path of Exile. I am no UI specialist programmer myself. A lot of the very basics that I've seen I've learned by looking at crawl source. And just from trying to understand the SDL loop and track down things like this infamous mouse bug, it's the kind of thing where you it's the kind of style of programming where it's not necessarily hard, but it's sort of in its own skill set. That's why it's nice to have Aiden helping out recently, because most of us don't really have that as a background. We don't really have any strong JavaScript programmers, which is kind of essential for improving WebTiles itself. That's part of our problem, is that the local tiles is implemented in SDL. Of course, you have console as another layer, and then WebTiles is this Python server that sends JSON to over a WebSocket to a client that's just jQuery JavaScript. And jQuery, most of it implemented back in circa 0.10, and not changed. Crawl 0.10 back in like 2012, 2011, and it hasn't gotten a lot of updates, and it's still not up to modern standards of, I think, JavaScript game development in terms of how the UI is implemented. I mean, it is using jQuery, but it's not really updated all that well. It's gotten some updates since Aiden has come along, and Advil has made some nice changes too, but we don't really have a JavaScript specialist, so there's all sorts of things that we would like to have in terms of making the UI consistent between local tiles in terms of what that does, and web tiles in terms of what that does. People from local tiles would like to have some of those UI elements available for online. People like the monster list that you see in web tiles and would maybe like to have that available for local tiles, but completely different implementations with abstraction classes to make things as similar as they can be. But it would be great if we didn't have to have two independent graphical implementations, one SDL, one JavaScript. It's just the way it was coded, because that was the most straightforward way to implement it. Yeah, Aiden was attracted to this project because he thought it was cool how it's like this three-way output implementation and you have to abstract. So he found it kind of interesting as a project to work on, because he had to like redesign some of the classes to facilitate that as well as you can. It's neat, some of the side benefits you get, but it sort of sucks that you have to like think about SDL, think about console, think about JavaScript. Yeah, we've talked about that actually, is just having the JavaScript implementation and then having it work locally through a browser client somehow, but making that a reality where it works is a whole other thing. Yeah, if I had more time, I'd like to work on it too, but I do more game design stuff. For those of us who like to work on the game itself, like spending too much time working on UI stuff gets to be a little bit of a drag. It's fun to learn new technologies though, that's for sure. I had a lot of fun just writing the bots because I got to learn like how to make an asynchronous multi-user bot that's like watching multiple WebSockets at once in one process, using Python's async IO library. That was a lot of fun, but it was also a ton of work. And that's just a silly bot. It's not even actually in the game. But if you have to learn some whole new technology, it's rewarding, but it's also really time consuming. And it's like, oh, I could have added some new content to the game, but instead I spent the last six months of my dev time working on UI stuff. Well, I guess that is Shoals. Time is it right now? Well, I'm really dragging this guy out. 11 hours. Next, if I win another pod like this, it's going to be faster. I just need to figure out a better route for this. I think Zot will go fairly well once I do Zot. Honestly, but given that I both have Infest, yeah, so Staff of Wizardry, I'm gonna turn off Necro. That's an obscene amount of necromancy to have trained up. Yeah, that would be, you would see me carrying more if I wasn't XL26, but I'm XL26 with like, pretty insane stuff, 200 HP and everything. So I'm very like distractedly like tabbing my way through it because it's so easy. Normally, yeah, I'm a little bit more careful. But I did Shoals 1 through 3 way back earlier in this run and forgot to ever go revisit Shoals. It would have been good to revisit it and do it earlier when it still would have been relatively easy and the extra XP would have been a little bit more impactful, but them's the breaks, I guess. I forgot to do it like it's easy to do with Shoals, because doing Shoals 4 right away is something you can absolutely do. It's the hardest branch end, in my opinion, and I often wait to do branch ends until maybe do Elf 1 and 2 first, but for Shoals specifically, that one usually... Let's go peek at... Oh wait, how many... Yeah. Yeah, I mean, statue form would indeed make Shoals pretty easy. Okay, so we're just going to check out Zot 1. See what we're up against. Mappity map. Oh, no monsters in Los. Looks like the path to the downstairs is not too far, also not too close either. We're definitely going to run into plenty of monsters on the way because it's sort of central, so we're going to get stuff down here. I might clear much of Zot 1. Yeah, that was a change in 0.21. Now Ilsui, what Iggy's talking about, Ilsui generates with the usual unique generation kind of profile for branch-specific uniques. Before, she would nearly always generate on the final level. Occasionally she could generate on Shoals 4, but it was such a high percentage, so it was like every time. Now she has a much more balanced spread. She still has the single highest chance on Shoals 5, I think, but it's much closer. Her chance of generation is much closer. And she can generate, I actually do forget, is it 2 through 5 or is it 3 through 5? I think it's 2 through 5. She definitely complicates it because she herself is not the worst, but she does have this massive band of high-level merfolk that are pretty nasty, including Aquamancers, Javelineers. And of course, she's not a complete pushover herself or anything, but all those extra merfolk for you to deal with.